give it a second to kick in. I'll make sure we are live on the page. Okay, it looks like we are live. Yep, we are good to go. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Sassquad Trail Runners RunVenture Facebook Live series for 2021. My name is Kim Levinsky and I am the owner and race director for Sassquad Trail Runners in New Jersey. Tonight we are joined by ultra runner Jessica Simao to talk all things trail running and volunteering. So before we give Jess her squatchy introduction, I'm going to share a few updates on what's happening here at Sassquad Trail Running. So this weekend we have our annual Squatchy Onesie Fest 5K Marathon. That's this Saturday, February 6th at the Ramapo Valley County Reservation in Mahwah, New Jersey. Yes, you heard that right. It is the Onesie Fest. So back for its second year. The Onesie Fest is perhaps the wildest race in our series. It's exactly as it sounds. You're going to come sporting your favorite onesie and run or hike the 5K. So as you can imagine, yes, there is a lot of snow on the trails right now after the storm that we just had. I was over at the race course today. I had some snowshoes on. I was just trying to pack down the snow. We put a call out on social media to invite other snowshoers to head over to the course and pack that snow down for you guys so you can thank them, because I know there are definitely some folks going out tomorrow and Friday. So if you're interested in doing that, it's just the loop that goes around Scarlet Oak Pond at the Ramapo Reservation. So I'm sure everyone will be very grateful if you head out there. So right now we have waves starting at 10 a.m., 11:30 a.m., and 1 p.m. The 10 and 11:30 a.m. spots are all sold out, but we do have about 13 spots left for the 1 o'clock start time, which you can register for that on ultrasignup.com. And as always, we have partnered with a local nonprofit or charity. And for the Onesie Fest, we are supporting the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. I've got my quarter zip here tonight to support them, because we're going to be chatting a lot about the trail conference tonight with Jess. So also coming up in February, which is another fundraiser for the trail conference, we are headed to the Wanacue Trail Systems in Ringwood, which is actually the same spot where the Ramapo Reservation is. This is for our RunVenture series. We just launched this new series in January. For January, we were over at the trails at Delaware Water Gap. And for February, we're going to Ringwood. So what it is, it's a semi-virtual event. You sign up for it on ultrasignup.com. We have several different race courses for you to choose from. We give you the detailed course description, we give you the GPX file, and then you get out on your own sometime during the month to complete the loop. You can run it, you can hike it, and then you can, if you'd like, you can submit your time online for official results. So for Wanacue, we've got events ranging from 5K all the way up to 36 miles. So here's the rundown. We've got the Castle Ruins 5K, the Manor 10K, the Stone Town Circular 10-ish miles, the Highlands 15.5 miler, and the Ramapo Ringwood 22 miler, and then finally the Beast, the 36 miler Wanacue Traverse. So this is a really neat trail system. It's personally one of my favorites. There's a lot of rugged, remote, there's some runnable, lots of hiking, just really gnarly trails, but beautiful, absolutely beautiful trails. And as some of the names indicate, there are some really cool historical features along the way. So if you're looking for something fun to do, again, family friendly as well, hop on ultrasignup.com or go to our website, sassquadtrailrunning.com, to learn more about that. And all of our events are also on our website if you want to check that out. So that about wraps it up for the Sassquad updates right now. So I'm going to pull up my little notes for Jess. Okay, so the reason you are all here, Jessica, originally from Connecticut. Jess and her husband now live in Sussex County, New Jersey. Jess is a full-time occupational therapist and is a very accomplished ultra runner. She's finished some awesome events around the tri-state area and up and down the East Coast. Some of them include Tunnel Hill, World's End, Heiner's, Cat's Tail, Escarpment, Eastern States, and Laurel Highlands, and not to mention several of our Squatchy events like the Double Squatch and the Squatchyanda Ugly Sweater Full Moon Race. So Jess, if she's not towing the line racing, she can often be found behind the scenes volunteering. That's, I think, how we actually first met. She came to volunteer at the Midnight Squatchapalooza, and I have to mention that she was sporting a fantastic onesie at that race. And Jess, I'll give you the backstory. She was a part of the think tank that came up with the idea for the Onesie Fest. I know that Jess had the onesie on. Virginia was there. She was wearing a onesie. I think it was like a flying squirrel.
Yep.
Joe Brandine, Rick was there. I think Crystal Jackson.
Yep.
Might have been a couple others, but that's where the big idea was thought of, late in the wee hours of the night at the Midnight Squatchapalooza. So I invited Jess on to the Facebook Live series podcast because she really represents the best parts of our trail running community. Obviously, I mentioned the races. She's a very competitive runner, but she's an active volunteer and trail maintainer around the tri-state area, specifically with the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, which we are huge, huge supporters, and we are partnered up with them. So Jess maintains the trails over at Mount Tammany, and then also a couple trails at Northern Green State Forest. So tonight, we're going to chat with her about all things running, all things volunteering, and I'm so excited. Jess, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Kim. I'm so honored. Like, truly, I mean, I really feel that, you know, in general, when Sassquad, you know, came about, I just feel like I found my trail community. So thank you so much for just establishing that. And really, you know, I've lived in New Jersey for, I don't know, 11 years now. And I feel like I finally, like, you know, found my tribe of people once you kind of brought all of us together. So, I mean, really, thank you so much.
That warms my squatchy heart. I love that. And one of my favorite stories, actually, we can start with this. It's a good segue. Is I know at the Midnight Race, you and Virginia met for the first time, right?
Yes.
And then you ended up, I think, crewing for each other. Is that's the story?
So actually, I had signed up for Eastern States, which it's for people who don't know, it's a 100-mile race, 100+ mile race in the Pennsylvania wilds, and it very much scared me because it's just a notoriously difficult course. And I had someone who said that they were going to pace for me, and that night of the Midnight Squatchapalooza, they had canceled on me, and I was just like completely like, oh my gosh, I need a pacer for this race. And
yeah,
I had just met Virginia, and you know, I mean, we're wearing onesies together, we're making pancakes, you know, pierogies, we're doing the whole, you know, 9 yards for, you know, that aid station there. And she was just like, she just opened, you know, her heart, like, I'll pace for you, no problem.
I love that.
It felt right, you know, because she's just a great person. And she had the harder pacing. I had two people pacing me. She paced me overnight from like mile 60 to 80. And I had a hard time
graveyard shift.
And she was wonderful. Like, she kept me going. She made sure I was eating and singing with me, and just, I mean, it was a rough overnight, but she got me through it. And I was so grateful, because it's just, you know, a friend that you make in just that short amount of time.
Yeah, I know. Virginia, if you're listening, we miss you. She's since moved out to Colorado. That was a real loss for the East Coast.
Yeah.
So yeah, that warms my heart. I love that so much. Stories like that are just the best. That really is what the trail running community is all about. So, and I forgot to mention, Jess is also a huge Star Wars fan. So tonight, in honor of that, I have my Star Wars mug. She's got her Rey t-shirt.
There we go.
I think is also one of the reasons we became quick friends. So
yes,
love a Star Wars fan. So Jess, let's jump into, let's get your background on trail. Let's hear your trail story. How did you get into running, and what brought you to where you are today?
I think I've always been a runner. I just didn't know it was like a thing. I mean, growing up in Connecticut, I was always just in the woods playing, running around, and that sort of a thing. But in middle school, I met a girl in gym class who was just doing these little like plyometrics, and she's like, oh, I learned this in cross country. And I'm like, what's that? And she told me, oh, you know, we run in the woods and it's really fun, you should do it. I'm like, oh, like that's a sport. And then, you know, from that moment, you know, from 7th grade on, I was in cross country, and I did track one year, but I mean, running in circles, I mean, I just had like
Right.
my heart and soul was in cross country. It was just, again, like an instant, connection with the people that were runners and that sort of a thing.
Mm,
I mean, I ran casually throughout college, but it was just more, into my major and just trying to get through grad school and through my boards and all of that. And then I went into, I always knew I wanted to do like a marathon and that sort of a thing. So, you build up slowly each mile. Each distance seems like it's a big deal, like, oh my gosh, 5 miles, like that's really long.
right.
8 miles, and then double digits. And then, you go through your, oh, I'm hungry and now I have to find out what to eat. And then you try every goo that was ever made. And, you go through that whole, thing. And then
Totally.
I ran some marathons. It was fun for a while, but again, I always knew I wanted to trail run. And when I was in grad school, I lived with my uncle during a clinical, and we used to go on what we called rikes, which looking back was just trail running, but we would call them run hikes, like
Right.
literally just trail running. But I didn't know it was a thing, and
Right.
when I was running marathons, my coach, I got a coach, Shannon, if she's out there listening, she's a great coach. And she was and she's a very established trail and ultra runner too. Shannon McGinn, if anyone knows her. And so she knew about trails. And so she was kind of coaching me through it. And I remember my first trail run, like, once I decided I'm going to start trail running, was like the worst week to do it ever. When like all of the leaves have just freshly fallen and it's just like, the light is in your eyes. And I had chosen like these really just old trails, actually in Ramapo, like that there's that section kind of like near where the ski center used to be, and the trails are just not clean. I was getting lost. It was a rough like first trail, but I kept at it, and I just started like, okay, I would literally just take Google Maps and look at like, well, this is a park. And so then I would like go to the websites and look at the websites and, just try to find out like, okay, where do these trails go? And, it just slowly started picking away at things, and, started to do my coach, she got me through like my first ultra, my first 100-miler. And then, I took a break from coaching just because we were saving for a house and all of that. And I just got really into the mountainous, like I just got more into the, let's take lots of pictures and, swim in the lakes when we see the lakes and that's kind of
right.
Take donuts on runs, and just kind of been like, it's just really enjoying all the time outdoors and meeting people and seeing new places and that kind of a thing. So, obviously this year it's been a little slower. So it's been more about just seeing all the different parks that are in New Jersey and in the surrounding areas that are close by and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I always want to run. So it's just always been a thing.
I love it. That's awesome. Talk to us about this past year. I know 2020 has been a whirlwind for everybody. How has it been for you and your family? And running wise as well. How has that impacted you?
Well, I mean, it's been tricky because my family, we all live in different places. So it's been hard not being able to see them. But my husband and I have been, getting creative with like staying home and finding new things to do. Running wise, it was a lot of just silly stuff that I think everyone, did. Like I ran all the streets I live in like a gated community, and there's lots of like condos and townhouses, and I wonder how many miles that will be. And ended up being like over 30. But I had a contest on Facebook, like asking people like, okay, whoever can.
I remember that.
I'll bake you something. So my friend Kate, she guessed closest and everything, but just silly stuff like that. I did a couple of your virtual races as well. And, it's fun to do where you're your own aid station, your car, that kind of a thing. Right. I posted on Sassquad as well about my, it was a good learning experience where I went for the unsupported FKT for the New Jersey Appalachian Trail. I mean,
that's right.
It was tough, but it was a great learning experience. I don't regret it at all. For those who don't know, I made it 60 of the 72 miles or whatever it was, 64 miles, something like that. I was like about 10 miles from the end when I had to call it. It just, a couple of errors, such as, pulling off to the side of the trail to use the facilities and then not finding the trail on the way back. This actually
Oh man.
you know, all of the, a couple of things, you know, I mean, I think I was prepared, but just doing it by yourself is, it's tough. And one of my friends was going to do it with me, but she just got sick that week. So, you know, I'm sure we'll find a way to try it again. I don't want to say her name in case she wants to keep it under wraps. So
Totally. Well, the conditions were tough too, because I went out and met you, and I had hiked maybe a mile or so and then came back. I mean, it was probably 3 inches deep of leaves, because it was like the height of like all the, like literally every leaf had fallen from the trees.
Yeah. The thinking was like, oh, I had just run Laurel Highlands, so I was like trained to run that mileage, right? Because Laurel Highlands is like 70.5 miles. But yeah, it was just like, it was very dry conditions too. So like filtering water took forever. It took like 30 minutes to filter. Like, I mean, it was, you know, it just a lot more time than I thought. So, you know, gonna have to think about the conditions a little more. But yeah, I've been trying to, you know, keep myself excited and going, because I'm gonna try to start fast packing. So that's kind of, that's how I keep myself occupied, is reading all of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's I tried fitting everything in the backpack this past week, and I think I have some more gear things I have to figure out. But yeah, I mean, it should. I figured just doing it in the New Jersey area will be a good thing to get started. And so if anyone wants to come adventure, you know, just reach out to me. I'm love to have some company.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's great. So, I mean, you spend your time trail running, but you've also made it a priority to volunteer, which is what I'd love to chat with you about. So tell us about your volunteer journey. How did it start? Why did it start? Fill us in on that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been, you know, actually from listening to other podcasts too, and people start talking about trail work and trail maintaining, it was always something that I was interested in. But I used to live in Bergen County in an apartment, and I knew that we were saving for this house. So I wanted to wait until I knew where I was going to live. Actually, I live in Warren County too, but right on the Sussex line. But I just wanted to know where that was going to be, so I could pick a, you know, have a trail that was kind of like closer to me. But I did go to some different, you know, just volunteer workshops. I actually went out with someone. So if you go on the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference website, there is a volunteer tab. And there's different ways that you can volunteer too. So if you're interested in plants, there's like an invasive species task force that like goes out and identifies invasive plants. And that's something that's really important. But they also have like, you know, kind of like workshop days kind of a thing. And, you know, you just kind of like look at your calendar and like, hey, I'm free on that day. And it tells you where it is, the approximate number of hours. You know, there's always someone there that knows more than you do that's going to be talking you through the kind of stuff. So I went out to, I don't know if it was Minnewaska or Mohonk, because they're like right next to each other. But the trail maintainer for that area, they were getting ready for the SRT, which is in September, the race that it's kind of like pretty self-supported. I'm interested in myself actually this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had to go maintain one of the trails, like clean it up and stuff. And it was a ton of work. I mean, we had to hike in, what is it called? The grounds people, or like the park personnel, they drove us to a certain point that we still had to hike in a couple of miles before we got to the trail, and we're lugging all of this, you know, these big machines and that kind of thing. It's a lot of work, but it feels so good at the end of the day because you know what it's like when you run through a trail that hasn't been maintained well, and you're getting, you know, like hit in the face with you know, branches, or if it's not well marked, you're getting lost. And I mean, so, you know, being a part of being able to help take care of the trail in that way felt like, it just felt so great. So I knew it was something I wanted to do. And I don't exactly, I'm trying to remember exactly when it was, but it was around this same time I did meet Don Weiss, who's, he started that, the Trail Conference Runs group. And so around the time that I was looking at, you know, again, becoming a maintainer myself, I went on a run with him. I believe the first one I went was actually at Torn Park.
Yeah.
Super close to where I work, but I just didn't know about the park at all. So it was just great for him to reach out to other runners, talk about what the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference does for these different parks, and kind of be that liaison with the organization, but also do something that I love to do. So it was really like a nice way to meet him. And we've gone on other of those conference runs together, and just seeing him at your races as well. It's been really nice. It's given me, I think, just a huge community of people to feel connected with. Like, again, it just I didn't feel quite grounded in New Jersey until I feel like I met this group of trail runners and this organization. Like, now I feel like no, I live in New Jersey now, and I'm a part of the community. And it you meet people, and it's funny too, even the trail conference even has people that live in Pennsylvania, but they enjoy the trails that are in this New Jersey area as well, so they come, and they're maintainers as well. So it's so nice to have that community of people to share that common vision of being able to have nice clean trails, and to take care of them. So
totally. We've got to give a major shout out to Don Weiss. I think he's on watching.
Yeah.
Don was he's the man. He was our tie-in to the trail conference. He reached out to me a few years ago. I think it was the first year that we started hosting races, and got us connected to become a club member of the trail conference, and we now support them with many of our events. So if you're not familiar, we should give a little background on the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. They're the nonprofit organization that is powered by volunteers. They maintain over 2,000 miles of trails throughout New York, New Jersey, and a little bit of Pennsylvania as well. So again, I've got my shirt on for the trail conference here. So Don Weiss he's very active in the trail running and hiking community. He runs two fantastic groups. You can find them on Facebook, but as Jess mentioned, the trail conference trail run group, and then also there's I think it's called the West Milford 13ers. That's it. That's right. And so he leads monthly hikes with them as well. So we love you, Don. We love you guys and what you do at the trail conference.
Yeah.
So let's segue. It's a good segue into Leave No Trace. I know when we chatted the other night, we were going to talk about that a little bit. What is Leave No Trace? Tell us, Jess.
Yeah. So it's, there's a great website that you can literally just search Leave No Trace, but it's, there's 7 guiding principles of when you're out in nature, how you should, go about, taking care of the place around you, taking care of nature. So, I mean, and it's, a lot of people think, oh, leave no trace, and it just has to do with just don't leave garbage, right? Which, yes, that is one of the principles, but a lot of it has to do with taking care of the space around you, being able to be to plan and prepare for where you're going to go. So rather than just, oh, you're in your car and, oh, I see a mountain over there, let's go hike it, and not be prepared with knowing what trails are you going to be on, what kind of equipment might you need, how long is it going to take you, all those kinds of things. And I'm sure you've been on a trail yourself. I'm sure many of us have, where you get stopped by someone who looks like they're not quite prepared. They might be, right, I don't know, in UGG boots or sneakers, and they've got their, styrofoam cup of coffee, and you're like,
right.
And they'll stop you and they'll ask well, how much further? And you'll be in a trail network, and you're like, how much further where? And it's scary because you realize these people don't really know where they're going. And the reason that's part of a leave no trace principle is that if you're not prepared, you could be, if you don't know where you're going, you could go off trail. Right. You could end up stuck somewhere, and someone has to come in and rescue you. And then the rescue effort might, put harm into the environment, by just the equipment that they have to take,
right,
all of that stuff. Actually, Don just posted something about 2 runners that got stuck in the snow up in New Hampshire. And again, it's just that, really respecting the elements and the mountains and the trails that we're on, and that they're, it's nature, and you have to be really respectful of that. It also, you know, it talks about too, like walking on durable surfaces. I mentioned before, my blender with the AT with when I had to go use the restroom, like there are ways that you dispose of things, but you also, like when you're picking a bathroom spot, that you have to make sure you're walking on durable surfaces, that it's not like in wetlands, you're not walking on fragile grasses and those kinds of things. Not necessarily related to running, but like if you're backpacking too, like there are principles too about firewood. Like, first of all, do you need to make a fire? You know, if so, you should try to do so in, like, you know, a pre-established ring. And, you know, if there is a lot of firewood around, again, like going to, you know, take the very little firewood that might be there. I mean, is that you're disturbing the environment as it is, right? Like you want to leave as much as possible. So unless there's ample amount of, you know, dead wood around, you shouldn't be, you know, so it's all those kinds of guiding principles. And actually one of my, you know, there's also like respecting the wildlife, you know, that's important. I know, at least where I live now in Alamuchi, there's a ton of bears actually, like in our park and stuff too. And, you know, it's about being respectful, giving them their distance. But also too, like if you see, you know, pretty flowers in the woods, just to respect them from afar, to admire them from afar, rather than trampling through the woods off trail to get close to that, you know, said thing. So it's just about being like careful, and really kind of like sticking to staying on the trail and that sort of a thing. And one of my favorite ones too is also just being respectful of others that are on the trail. I'm sure we've all also experienced, like with just this huge increase in new trail users too, that there's just a lot of people using the trail. And as a maintainer, so Mount Tammany is probably one of the most popular trails in New Jersey. So it's like the Red Dot Trail is the one I maintain. And unfortunately, most of what I end up maintaining is trash, is like picking up trash. And, but also like, you know, there's people with dogs, like, you know, all of the doggy bags, and people blasting music. And it's like, you know, if people are out in nature, you have to just be respectful of their surroundings. Maybe they came to nature to, you know, to be in the quiet and not to hear your favorite song and that kind of a thing, you know. Or, and also just being respectful too. Like, I know I'm not a dog owner, but like if people have dogs that, like, you know, recognizing that other trail users might not become, like, you really should have your dog on a leash. And I know it's a touchy subject for some people, but if that is one of the principles too, is like, if you're respectful of the people that are hiking around you, and the trails are for everyone, right? So like you need to make everyone as comfortable as possible. So it's just, you know, I think another part of being a maintainer too is being able to educate people about that kind of a thing. You know, it's a delicate it's a delicate matter as well. But my trail supervisor for Mount Tammany, he's awesome. Mark Kern, if he's out there at all, he just has the best way of being very gentle and educating people. He's always very willing to come help me. Anytime I say I'm going to go do some work on the trail, he'll come help me. And he has a really nice way of just saying, like, for example, like people might ask when they see you picking up the trash, like, oh, is that all from here? And then sometimes people will ask, like, well, what's in there, and that kind of a thing. And it's always like an opportunity to say, like, oh, well, you know, some of it is like those synthetic wipes. Like people think that they break down, but because they're synthetic material, you know, they don't really, and that kind of a thing. And just educating people while you have the chance. You know, it's definitely an art form, and there's plenty of people to keep coaching me on that, but it's important. So I think too, as us as I think as other, you know, trail stewards, even, that we're out there on the trails weekend after weekend, and, you know, we can be those people. So, you know, I call out to everyone there who might be watching, you know, if you see someone and you think that you have an opportunity to just kind of like politely educate them about, like, so for example, I was also picking up trash on Tammany, and I heard someone behind me saying, like, oh, you could just leave the bag there because they're biodegradable. I'm like, ooh.
Actually,
well, I actually, if anyone is like has a law background and they know how to start like a PSA about these dog bags, I would love to meet with you. because I'm
It's
like,
crazy, right? The
I
dog bags.
but I think what it is they have on the package, I think it says like biodegradable, but I want to like invite them like, oh, okay, so leave it in your backyard and just let me know how long it takes. Because if
Right.
every person with a dog did that, you
Yeah.
know, and even if it breaks down in a month, which I doubt, I haven't
Yeah.
tested it myself, but I just, you know, even if every person did that, like, would they, you know, we would just be on a trail littered with dog tags. So it's just trying to like teach people. And then like they felt really bad. So I didn't want to make them feel bad, but I just, you have to take those opportunities when they're given to you,
Right.
educate
Right.
people on that. So
Definitely a balance of, being bold
yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that another point I thought of, and you might plan to mention this already, but with the dogs, the off-leash dogs, another thing I think sometimes dog owners don't think about is like when their dogs are running up ahead or they're going off trail, that's
Mhm.
also an issue too with leave no trace, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you know, if you're unfortunately like, you know, we hope that the dog is going to be safe both with like other people but also with animals. Like I've heard people say, like, again, comment that their dog ran into a porcupine, kind of a thing. Like, you know, you're just trying to, and that's not respecting the wildlife, right? Like a dog
Right.
wouldn't normally be out there, you know, something that a porcupine should be running into.
Right.
So it's really yeah, I think it's just safer for everyone if they can, you know, keep their dog. I know, again, I'm not a dog owner, but you know, it is one of those things that's you know, I've seen several people. Oh, I don't know if you can hear my cat,
Is
but
that
no.
Marty?
That's Marty. Yeah, I'm a cat owner. Anyway, but you know, I think it's I have seen people though that are very respectful too,
Right.
and that will always like put their dog, you know, on a leash if they see someone coming, or and that kind of a thing too. So,
Right.
or their dog stays close by them. So, but yeah.
That's awesome. So you are maintaining at Mount Tammany and then also over at Northern Green. So
Yes.
so tell us, like, you signed up to be a trail maintainer. What does one do as a trail
Mhm.
maintainer? I mean, obviously picking up trash you've mentioned, but what other things do you do? Like, how often do you go out on the trails?
So
What's the commitment level?
yeah, so they actually, it's like only require technically like twice a year. So there's the spring, which is from like January through June, and then the fall, which is, you know, July through December. But you could go out as many times as you want. So I was actually two of the trails I maintain are actually in the I'm trying to remember, it's the 15 miler. What is your 15 mile?
Yes, the Highlands 15,
The Highland.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's the Manaticate Point Trail and the Westbrook Connector Trail. And so I will often go out after a big storm. So, you know, what we just had, like there definitely,
Mhm.
anytime there's a chance that there's down trees,
Right.
that kind of a thing to clear. So, you know, you might be pruning back, you know, bushes and that kind of a thing, a lot of shrubbery. So a lot of like it's so like they're complete opposite trails. Like the Northern Green, it hadn't been maintained for a little while. They actually have gotten a huge increase in trail maintainers, which is awesome. Like now
That's
almost
great.
the entire park is maintained
That's awesome.
by trails. Yeah. So and they're doing a lot of actually trail work this upcoming year where they're doing some trail improvements and actually building some new trails. So that will be really exciting. Um, but yeah, I mean, building and maintaining those trails when you have that, like those wildlife bushes, it's a lot of work. So it's, you know, there is, so if you're ever interested, there are webinars that again are on the trail conference website that you can, they're just recorded on YouTube. I think Don's done a few of them too. He's
That's
probably on there. But they talk about the different tools that you need. And sometimes also it's just, you know, I'm not as strong as some of the guys out there. So I can saw through some, you know, small trees, but like if it gets like like larger in diameter than like, you know, 7-8 inches,
right.
there's a chain gang and they're specially trained to use the chainsaw, and you let your supervisor know. The New Jersey Trail Conference also has just like a web form that you could, so if you're ever out in a trail and you're like, wow, there's a giant tree across this trail, you can, you know, pull out your map, you know, take a picture of where you are, take a
Yeah.
picture of the tree and submit it. So that's actually how I found out my local trails are maintained by Jorba, which is the mountain biking organization too. But you just kind of like make those connections of, oh, here's the maintainer for that trail. So now I can directly email them if there's an issue and that sort of a thing. You also, so some, I'm sure you've seen too, like some trails will have, I forget what they're called. They're like water things where they divert the water off the path so it doesn't wash out the trail.
Swale. I think it's a swale. Is that the right term?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't have them on my trail, so I didn't learn the name.
But can correct us. He'll pop it in the chat.
Yeah. So you have to clean those out sometimes. Also, just like you submit reports that where like graffiti cleaning. I've unfortunately had to do some of that as well. But again, like if you're not sure of how to do anything, you just reach out to your trail supervisor and they'll come help you, coach you, teach you. And then if it's like something that's more involved. So for example, I'm sure you're familiar at Tammany, if you're going up the Red Dot Trail, there is just what they call like a herd path of like where people think the trail should be. And no matter like how many trees we like drag in front of that, people just keep going like down that herd path because it's become so beaten down that people think that's the way. And I've reblazed that area, the turn is here, and people still go up that herd path. So we might actually make a little sign like trail this way, to hopefully, again, like keep people on the correct path.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just those kinds of things. But sometimes there's also like just bigger issues. So like if a certain area is really waterlogged and it's just, the Terrace Pond Loop is a great example. They just built a floating bridge there.
Yes, it's very cool.
Yeah, so like when it becomes like a really big issue like that, where a couple rocks across the stream is not going to cut it, that's where it kind of goes a little bit higher up. So either the bigger park supervisors might take care of, like they might decide like we can divert some money to this, or maybe it's like a project that the trail conference is going to work on for a longer period of time.
Right.
So you're there to report on those issues. And then, like, for example, part of my trail, they reblazed the colors and they took away one of the colors. When I first started maintaining it, it was like yellow and white and then yellow and blue. And now it's just yellow, like they're reblazing the trails. And that was a higher up decision. And it's like, so I'm there to help with the reblazing and that kind of a thing. But, those park supervisors, and they've got like the more overarching vision of what the park's going to look like, right? So
right.
And Northern Green, they're in general are just trying to make it a lot more easy to follow. They're going to do some, like with my trail in particular, do a little bit more rerouting to get some more nice views, like within the, get to little like overlooks and that kind of a thing. So they're taking that into consideration. So
that's awesome. I'll pop in here. Don dropped in. He said it's called Water Bar.
Water Bar. There you go.
There it is. so tuck that away for trivia night.
Yep.
So when you're going out on, like, say you're going, I'm going to go do some trail maintenance, you're headed out to Norton Green. What's in your pack? What are you bringing with you? Are you bringing the loppers and handsaw,
Yeah, so I've got loppers, like hand pruners. You of course need like protective eye gear, and gloves are a really big thing. A lot of water, because I'm like always out there the whole day. Like it's, I would say a short day is like 5 hours. It's like, it's a really like, I mean, and again, it depends, but yeah, I mean, if you're spending some, so I kind of like look at it as, from a running perspective, it's like, it's a cross training day, right? Because it's a ton of work, but it's not running. Like, and you're going to be too tired to run.
Yeah.
But that's okay. And like, so, a lot of water. Yeah, I do have a handsaw as well. And then trash bags. I always have my, and if people don't know, I'm sure people do, but the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference has these awesome maps on Avenza maps.
Yes.
So that is where I also, I will take pictures of where I am if there's an issue. Like if there's a tree down here, I'll take a picture of the tree and the picture of where it is on the GPS and that sort of a thing. If there's a big tree down, I might be able to clear some branches in order to be able to get through. But and again, like the chain gain might need to come out there. Trying to think of what else. You know, you need to wear like long pants too if you're really dealing with a lot of those bushes and that kind of a thing. Um, you know, all of those like kind of like the gardening tool kind of a thing.
Right.
Right. You know, I know so different parks are different too about whether or not they're comfortable. Like some parks want you to be like are fine with you using more, you know, electric equipment, you know, like the hedge clippers, kind of those things. I personally just feel like, you know what, less chance for injury if I'm using hand tools.
Totally. Yeah,
Hand
totally.
tools are really heavy, so I have like a good mile hike into my trail. So it's like, do you really want to be carrying all of that? Not really. So yeah, I think the gloves are that important thing too. You know, and I did try to get these shears because I thought those were going to be more beneficial for the bushes, but you know, I like the pruning. The small pruning ones are the better.
Those are your go-to
Yeah.
tools.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I have a question for you. Maybe it's fun. What is the most bizarre item that you've had to pack out that you found on the trail and you put in a trash bag?
I think, okay, I mean, I have like, I guess 2 answers. The men's jeans, like
Just a whole pair of jeans.
a whole pair of jeans, and of course they were soaking wet. But it's like, what'd you hike down in? Like where? You know, that's always bizarre. And then like the children's toys that look very creepy on the side of the trail, like you know, like the stuffed animal that's now clearly like a little decrepit, or it looked like it was like a knockoff of a lightsaber, but it wasn't quite a lightsaber. It was some sort of like Star Warsy kind of knockoff toy. I felt very bad. I didn't want to throw it out, but like, I mean, what can you do, you know? I think those are well. And then when I got really into blogging too, I started like, you know, when you started that, I think it was April.
Yes.
And I was like picking up trash all the time on like, you know, every single run. And then I thought I was picking up plastic and it was a deer jaw. But so then I think I posted because I wasn't sure what it was. And it like totally, yeah, I knew it was like someone's skull. I just didn't know whose skull it was. But, yeah. So then you start to get like, oh, be careful what you're picking up. Oh, and that actually reminds me too, gloves. Like I always wear lots of pairs of gloves. You know,
yes.
And the trash, actually, I need to get a pair myself, the trash picker upper stick.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah.
Well, if you pick up a lot of trash too, it does wear and tear, so you might need some extra. Oh, yeah, and that reminds me too, I also do have for some of the graffiti removal, the rocks here are so hard that like there are like buffing things that you can use, but even just some natural coloring spray paint to kind of cover up. I do have that too for Tammany, because Tammany does get, unfortunately, a lot of graffiti, but and you want to cover it up because if people see graffiti, then they think, oh, it's okay, I'll do it too, it looks cool.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Well, that brings up a good point, because I wanted to ask you about this. I know the Trail Conference did a seminar on it. I think it was probably on Zoom in the last few months, but about removing graffiti. Can you give us like the kind of the Cliff Notes version of it, and how does that process work?
Yeah, so it's like, again, so it's like up to the park supervisor how they want you to do it, right? Like, because it's like their park, and basically there's 3 ways, I would say. Like there's the harsh chemicals, which really you can't do in a park, right? Because like the chemicals are bad for everything around it. Like really it's only used for sidewalks or under bridges, like that kind of a thing. Like there's those really harsh chemicals. I mean, I can't think of an application where you would take that anywhere near, like, because your skin can't touch it, you can't breathe it in. You possibly do that when you're on a trail where people are, you know, all around you. So then you could kind of like buff it out. So that's what the park supervisor wanted us to do. So we actually, so Mount Tammany's in Worthington. So with the Worthington Park office, they have this like, it looks like a ginormous sander with like a kind of like a Brillo pad. So So we give it a try always, but like, again, the rocks are just so hard that sometimes it's just like buffing, it's just kicking back at you, and it really isn't much of a difference. So then the last way is, and people are of varying, skill levels with this, but like using paint to kind of cover, you may try to make it look more natural, because like you want to just make it so that your eye doesn't necessarily go right to it. So that's like a combination of, using different texture, like using spray paints and then different like sponges and that kind of a thing to kind of cover it up and make it just so it's, you can't quite tell that it might look weird, but it at least isn't, you can't say like, whoa, what does that say? Or, I've covered up Mickey Mouse, hearts, all sorts of weird shapes. Luckily, nothing hateful, fingers crossed, but just silly things like, Mickey Mouse is the weirdest, I think.
Yeah, that's a little creepy.
yeah. But it's definitely, and I actually want to tell this story too. So they do share too, like, so the trail conference will share, like, if someone writes in about your trail, they'll connect you with that person and said like, so there's this woman that, she basically, her name is Denise, and she was really upset that there was graffiti, again, popped up again on Tammany. So myself and my trail supervisor, Mark, we invited her out to come maintain with us and say like, let's get rid of that graffiti together. And we did some reblazing, and it was a really great way to just meet her. And she ended up becoming a trail maintainer herself.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was really, and she maintains the Buttermilk Falls Trail. So it's just nice to make that connection. And, I was just running up there the other day, and unfortunately I saw she's got graffiti on her trees now, but I have her email now, so I can contact her, and hopefully we'll be able to just hike together on another time, not related to removing graffiti, but it's great. There are lots of wonderful people out there willing to help. So, sometimes that's just a way to get involved, is incidentally, you have a trail out there that you love, and then you see it needs some work, and you reach out and connect, and it's a nice way to get help from other people and meet new people too. So
totally. We've got a question in the chat. This is from Jana Shernetz. Her comment is, vert is not real. Sassquatch is real.
Yes.
Are Karen's graffiti the rock stacking?
Oh, that is it's not, I don't know if it's graffiti, but it is against leave no trace, because you're supposed to leave the rocks as be, right? Because like there's no chance that all of those rocks were right in that place, right? You should really leave, because also like you don't know what you're disturbing underneath. Like, was there a snake there that now you've disturbed his hole, or answer, all those kinds of things. Like there's a lot of things that we can't see with our eyes that might be hiding, and if we're making those kinds of I know people love them, but yes, there's actually an article about that.
Yes.
I'll have to find it and I'll have to post it again, because there was a whole article about it, and it was really, yes, I mean, I know they look cool, but and especially, I don't know if you've ever seen them in rivers too, but when you do that for a river, it ends up diverting the water in ways that it shouldn't be necessarily. So yeah, it's really not the best. So maybe get yourself some rocks at home, and then you can,
make your own rock garden.
I'll have to say it is the same though. Maybe this is what she was asking. If you've seen those painted rocks, people leave those painted rocks. So yeah, that's unfortunately also not leave no trace. I haven't actually come across them myself at Tammany. If I did, I would probably end up, because you don't want to remove it, right? Even though it was probably brought in from somewhere else. I don't think anyone's sitting here like painting nicely on the side of the trail.
Exactly.
It was probably brought in from somewhere else, but I would probably end up covering it up with paint. And I'm sure you want to, preserve your nice painting, but you should probably have it for your garden.
Totally. When I was out at the Gap doing the 19 miler that we had for the RunVenture in January, I couldn't believe when I was going around Sunfish Pond, there were a bunch of those stacked rocks, but it wasn't even like I could knock them over. Somehow they were like out in the pond.
Wow.
Like,
that's
I don't even know. I don't know how somebody did it. If they maybe the water was lower at some point and then they.
Well, I mean, that's that's really sad to me, because that's like a very talk about a really protected environment. That's like a glacial pond with very, very, just fragile an ecosystem kind of a thing. Like if you look at the sign that's right there,
Yeah.
It very clearly outlines like how fragile the environment is in that pond. So I really hope, well, that makes me sad.
I know, and it wasn't even like I could take it down. It was like out in the water, and it was
Oh gosh,
freezing and snowing. So speaking of, like, if somebody's out on the trail and they see some of those stacked stones, should they take it down? Is that helpful, or what's?
I mean, I think it would help defer. Now, I just want to be clear though, in places like New Hampshire or like out in the White Mountains, there are trail cairns. So I don't want to like say that those are not the same thing. There are, like, for example, if you're out above tree line, sometimes the cairns are there to mark the trail. So it's not those. That's not what I'm talking about. Please don't remove those. You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah,
though.
definitely not.
They're huge.
Like in the high peaks or something.
Yes,
then
exactly.
A lot of lost hikers.
Yeah, don't do that. But like, yes, if it's just unfortunately, I'm not saying like go kick it down, but like, because the more people see them, the more, people think it's okay and they want to add their own. Actually, this is just reminding me now of one, now that we're talking about it, it's reminding me of one in Stokes that's near, oh gosh, where is it? It's near Tillman's Ravine. There's like a forest of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have to say too, like, there are times too, like, because you could drive yourself crazy, right? Like with like every piece of garbage and every little rock pile. So there are times when I just go and run, and it's like, this is my time to run, because if I stop for everything, I'll only get 3 miles in, like, so. But there are times that I will go back and like go pick up the trash. And sometimes it's just at the end of the run, and it's most of the trash is near the trailhead anyway. But you kind of want to go back to those opportunities, and like, if you can, take care of them. But you also have to get a good run in here and there.
Totally. No, I know. This summer, or spring, whenever we started doing the plogging, it was so interesting, because once I started doing it, you can't unsee the trash. Like now, like whenever you're out, like it's like eyeball magnets to that nasty mask that's on the side of the road, or the trail, or the baby wipes, the dog bags, especially the doggy bags.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And I mean, and sometimes you're just out on a run and you're like, I would pick it up if I could, but like, I don't have gloves, and you want to be safe too, and you have to have somewhere to put it, like you can't just, if it's like a single wrapper, I might be okay with picking that up and using my Purell, but like, obviously some of these things you can pick up without gloves.
You don't want to pick up.
No.
So we've got another question here. It's from Adriana. Her comment says, I know you said it's a sensitive topic, but what can we do about unwelcome bikers and unleashed dogs on the trails? Maybe Sasquatch can teach them a lesson.
Ooh. Well, okay, so the bikers first, like, so I would say most trails probably do allow bikers, unless you see something that says footpath only. And the places I see footpath only tend to be like the Catskills. For the most part, we have to share the trails with bikers as well. Now, hopefully they announce themselves. I think technically, I think
Adriana, I know that Adriana is a local runner to like Watchung Reservation in South Mountain, where it's explicitly no mountain bikers. So I think that's the reference.
Is that why?
Yes. Yeah. They give you a little context.
I was gonna say, out here it's like, they're the norm. Out in Alamuchi, there's a ton of mountain bikers, so I'm just used to yielding the way for them. I think it starts with just like trying to, like, when I have come across someone that's got like a dog that's unleashed, and it's just like, oh, and they might, usually what I get is, oh, they're friendly. And I try to say like, oh, okay, just like, I'm not really comfortable. Can you put them on the leash right now? Or like, you know what? Or sometimes they will come, like the dog will come up to me and be barking me. And I usually I'll stop, because like, right, like if you keep running, the dog's going to chase you. So you need to stop. And I'm like, oh, can you, like, the barking's making me uncomfortable. And I just try to be, I try to just look the owner in the eye and just explain, like, me, myself, right? Like, I try not to get preachy in the moment, right? And I just, you do the I feel comments. I feel uncomfortable when there's a
Yes.
dog that's running at me. I feel nervous when he's barking at me. Those kinds of things. Or, hey, maybe you're running or hiking with a little kid, and like the kids are going to be more impulsive, right? And like, I'm just nervous for my child or something like that. As far as the bikers go, I that's going to be harder to, again, I think it's like, oh, just so you know, I believe that this park doesn't allow bikers. And I mean, you know, I haven't had to deal with that as much. I don't know. What have you done, Kim?
You know, I have a hard time with bikers because South Mountain, right, is such a busy park. It's so busy,
Yeah.
especially in the last year. And I would say for the most part, the mountain bikers that I come across are friendly, but a couple of them, like, they either might not announce that they're coming, and then what happens is it's the same as like an off-leash dog is coming at you. I end up jumping off the trail, and like if you're on a single track, it can be, kind of sketchy. So I mean, usually when I'm out there, I'm running with friends who are a bit more vocal than I am, so they take care of it. I'll leave it at that. They usually do the talking. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, I understand, where the bikers are coming from. They want to enjoy the trails, but it's tough when it's a park like Watchung Reservation and South Mountain where they're very, very busy, especially on the weekends. Like, it's just, it's crazy. There's a lot of families, there's kids. And then when you throw in the mountain biking and the off-leash dogs, it's like, it's.
And the thing is, there's so many great mountain biking, like, not, I don't want to say exclusive, but mountain bike heavy parks like Alamuchi, like, like out near Split Rock, like that whole area is big with mountain bikers too. I mean, it's just like, there are parks that are very welcoming to it too. So, I mean, maybe it's also just pointing them in that direction. Like, Jorba, I mean, Jorba does a great job too. They maintain a lot of the trails necessary, like the New York, Jersey Trail Conference doesn't, if it's like more popular with those mountain bikers. So, I mean, they do an awesome job, but, I think you also have to think of, like, what position are you in? If you're running by yourself, like, I'm not going to start a fight with someone, right? Because like, I don't know where they're at, and I just need to be safe. And I was running once, and it was hunting season, and I was very shocked to see, and like, again, I've many hunters can be very nice too, but I was shocked to see there was this guy that was like set up on the trail, which I'm pretty sure you can't do. But again, I didn't want to get into a debate with this guy who was hunting.
Right.
And I'm by myself. And I had my orange on, but you're not like required to wear orange, but it's a courtesy, right? And I had my orange on. But he thought I should have been like head to toe orange. And I'm like, I'm not going to get into debate with you. I'm just going to, you just have to be safe, I think, and smart. And, you don't know how people are going to react. So you want to be courteous, while just saying, like, if you're uncomfortable, and just, leaving it at that. That being said, like, you also want to, going back to the be prepared, you always want to have someone know where you are, right? Like, you always want to have your phone with you. And if you don't have, like, if it's a place that doesn't have good cell reception, like I have, like a satellite communicator, I have my Garmin, and, so that I can, reach someone if I do get into trouble, right? Like, so that's something to, like, not that I was worried about getting into trouble with the hunter, but it just made me think.
Yeah, no, it's true. You always got to be, I think, just aware of your surroundings, aware of the situation that you're in, especially if you are running alone, which I know both of us do a lot.
Yeah. And it's also like, it's being courteous of others, right? And that, if you're in a park that does allow mountain biking, even if they don't, you have to, like, they have as much right to the trail as you do. I also, like, I don't know, there's people that do horseback riding on our trails too. Like, I mean, again, that's just like, I've come across it only a handful of times, but there's no reason that they can't be here just the way I can. And we want everyone to be able to enjoy the trail. So you just try to be respectful, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Adrian, I hope that helps. I can tell you a couple of my friends who are very vocal. If you'd like to go running with them, they can help you out.
I think I know who you're talking about.
I think so. Okay, so if you're listening, feel free to drop any more questions in the chat. I've got a couple of rapid fire questions for Jess. We're gonna have some fun with this. All right, so first one, let me pull it up here. Okay, we love to start with this one. Is Sasquatch real?
Absolutely.
Oh, no hesitation.
Absolutely.
No hesitation. I love it. Okay, where is your go-to trail?
Weekday or weekend? Weekday, Alamuchi, the Deer Park Road entrance, and there's a nice little beaver, I don't know, den. What is it called? Beaver
Dam, right?
Beaver Dam. There you go. Yeah. So like, one good thing about the whole quarantine and being home, working from home, was I was able to get on the trails in the morning. So get to see my beaver friends. And I'd say on the weekends, the Delaware Water Gap. Into Stokes, like that whole area is,
Isn't Stokes the best?
I love it. Oh, Stokes is my favorite, I think.
Stokes is just, it's so beautiful, and it's like very rarely crowded, which is like a great combination for New Jersey.
It really is. I know.
What's your favorite trail at Stokes, if you had to pick one?
Oh, I love the Blue Mountain Trail. I mean, that big,
yeah,
it just has such a diversity. Like you get the big mountain views, the pine forest along the river, the meadows.
The best part.
Beautiful. Yeah, love it.
That's the best part. Okay, next one is most interesting animal you've seen out on a trail run or hike.
I guess the porcupine I saw on the AT actually.
The porcupine, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, next question is, what is your favorite trail running food or fuel that you use?
Ooh. Well, if I'm carrying it, I would say, I mean, I love probably Pop-Tarts or peanut butter and jelly. But if I don't have to carry it, meaning like, because like, I would say like, at an aid station, bacon, or I love ramen noodles. I just think that's like, I don't know, it's just the best like aid station food. Or pancakes. Pancakes are also delicious.
Ooh, pancakes.
Or donuts.
Yes.
Anything with like the baked goods.
Carbohydrate related.
I have packed a donut in my pack, but it got a little mushy, so it's not the best packed food, I would say.
Well, I have a follow-up question. What's your favorite flavor Pop-Tart?
Ooh, apple cinnamon.
Apple cinnamon. All right.
Yeah,
again,
it's like a little apple pie.
That's awesome. Okay, next question is, what is the hardest trail running or hiking experience of your life? Like a moment where you're out on the trail and you're thinking, what am I doing here? What comes to mind?
Besides my AT blunder, Eastern States it's just a very, very challenging course, and it's relentless up and down. But like I have to say though, but doing it as a race experience was very, encouraging, because you just have such a great support of people. I did do the Devil's Path. That was, the Devil's Path in a day was its own challenge, because you did it by yourself. Well, I did it with one of our other club members, Sandra.
Yes. Was that this fall? Was that?
Well,
I'm trying to think. Or summer.
It was summer. It was August.
It was in August.
Yeah. So that is just, it's just very. It can be dangerous, so that's what it's a little like, a little challenging about it. And just doing it in a day, it's exhausting. But yeah, I mean, I think more than anything, there are more challenging courses, I would say, than the New Jersey AT. But having done that by myself was its own set of challenges. It's like you had it was Kelly Lynn, right? Was there?
Kaylin, yeah.
And she was talking about her experience and how you really have to be constantly solving problems and sharp, and that is real, right? Like you can really get in your head and down, and you can be great, 1 minute, and then the next minute you're like, searching for the trail for 20 minutes. I'm so crabby. If my sister's watching, she can attest to some late night phone calls when I accidentally. So after I got lost, I went the wrong way back on the trail.
Oh.
I climbed Rattle Creek Mountain 3 times. Like, so she at my darkest, like that. I think those, even though the trail itself wasn't the most trail, that experience it just taught me a lot of like, taking care of yourself and, being your own problem solver and all of that. So it's like 2 different things, right? Like,
Right.
the Pennsylvania wilds, as far as trails go, are some of the most difficult I've been on, but by yourself, man, is its whole other demon.
Awesome. All right. So we got, I think, three more questions. So flip side of that, if you could nail down one moment on the trail that was like the pinnacle best moment ever, is there something that comes to your mind real quick? Doesn't have to be a race. It could be a trail experience, or maybe an awesome view or something.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I would say this past summer, my roommate from college and her husband and I, the 3 of us were always big hikers in college. We knew each other. So summiting Mount Washington, I had never climbed it. And just that whole, especially this year when everything was so hard, right, to get together and to see each other. So that was just a really special moment. And it was clear, I could see. So I didn't even get the full experience. I got like the crystal clear day. So that was just trail magic, right? Like to be able to be with people you love on top of a mountain, like that's been on your list.
Yeah.
So great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Last 2 questions are kind of looking ahead. What are, you can name one or a couple, either races or trail experiences on your bucket list, things that you definitely want to do.
Well, I don't, you'll have to remind me of the name, but that thing in the Adirondacks that's like kind of like the Great Traverse, but that's the extra.
The Bob Marshall. I was actually going to message you and Kaylin the other day, and I'm going to do that this week about it.
I'm very seriously considering booking the camping for that right now. And I also want to do the Penny Loop. On my list is I'm signed up to do the Ragged Stage Race, which is it's 75 miles, broken up over 3 days. It's in New Hampshire. I think it's just gonna be a fun experience. Haven't done the 3 days in a row of long mileage, so it would be fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, Bob Marshall. You know what? Kaylin just popped in the chat. She said yes, please. So
yes,
let's follow up after this and nail that down.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then final question is, 2021 probably just as uncertain as 2020 in terms of races, but is anything on your horizon for the next year?
I am signed up for Cayuga 50 miler.
Yes.
It's carried over from last year, so that's I think it's Memorial Day weekend, so that should be fun. And again, that Ragged race, and I'm just gonna take it like month by month, and really just try to focus on what I am in control of. So kind of like doing more of the Catskills, exploring some of the Adirondacks, and getting back to New Hampshire, and just being out there, right? And hopefully some fast packing, backpacking, whatever.
Totally. Yeah. That's awesome. And it's the best, I say this all the time, I love to travel, but we've really been blessed this last year. There's so many awesome trails within driving distance from where we're at here in North Jersey.
I actually realized, I used to drive 2 hours to go to the beach, and then I realized I live 2 hours from the Catskills, so why don't I just drive there?
Right.
So I started doing that this summer, which is something I don't know why it took me that long to figure it out, that I could just drive there in a day. So now I've started to do that. It's so beautiful there too. So
it really is. It is. Okay, Jess, this has been great. Thank you so much. You've been so gracious with your time, sharing your stories and knowledge. So much great information. I'm excited for people to either watch the replay or catch the recording on our podcast.
Yeah.
So I do want to mention, if what you've heard tonight sounds interesting and you're thinking, I want to volunteer, you can definitely start with the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. Their website is nynjtc.org. And I think Don had dropped it in the chat. If you just do a /volunteer or go to their homepage, there's a volunteer link right up front. You can reach out. Don Weiss is super approachable. He's active on social media. You can reach out to him. And of course to Jess, you know, she can connect you with people, and I would be happy to connect you with as well. We are, again, looking forward to 2021. I've been working with the South Mountain Conservancy. We're going to start organizing some more of the virtual plogging events, so it doesn't have to be at South Mountain. I know Jess participated and virtually, so you can go to your favorite trail and just do some trail cleanup. Yeah. So Jess, thank you again so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
It was great, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. So if you want to learn more about Sassquad Trail Running, you can go to our website, sassquadtrailrunning.com. We're very active on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And again, we've got a few spots left for our race this weekend over at Ramapo. You can sign up for that on ultrasignup.com. All right. So until we see you again, keep it squatchy.